On the show today, we have Jassica Nia, a cancer survivor, hustler, content creator, and a spiritual nomad. As the saying goes, when life gives you lemon, or in Jessica's case, when life throws you at the worst obstacles, how do you turn it into opportunities? Jessica shared with us about her journey as a cancer survivor and how she came out fighting. Hi, this is Bryler, and welcome to another episode of Cultivating the Masses. This podcast is a collaboration between Culture Talent and Renegade Radio. So without further ado, let's get to it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have Jassica Nia with us over at this episode. So right from the get-go, just before we start, I do want to ask you this question personally. I notice you have an accent. So are you pure Malaysian?
I am Malaysian, but I have a couple of mixed races, I suppose. No, races or ethnicity. My father is direct Siam, which is Thai. And then from my mother's side, I have the European blood. So,
Okay.
I am pure Malaysian.
Okay. But where did the accent come from? Is it from what you consume or?
That's a very, very good question because, I don't know what my accent is anymore. You know, people tell me, and I try to work as local as I possibly can with being like trying to incorporate into the local world and incorporating law and all that.
Right.
But I think more so my friends are not really local. They are based on from all over the world. So, and also my work environment. And I think it's also an effort to learn how to speak the proper English, but I don't think I speak proper English anyway.
I mean, it sounds pretty natural coming from you. You know, you sometimes you can just notice it whether someone is forcing it or not. But from you, it sounds like you grew up with that accent, right?
That's so nice to say.
Yeah, I mean, I myself too, I imitate accents from time to time, and my friends really hated me for doing that.
It's nice to speak proper English, though.
Sorry?
It's nice to speak proper English. It's just kind of, you just know like you're speaking well and you don't have to feel like you're, like you're self-conscious and you're not really doing your best. It works for work environments a lot. Yeah.
All right. So that's that. If you guys are wondering where she's getting her accent from, that's to answer your question. Anyways, moving forward. So right before we got into this podcast, I went through your social media. Actually, I just followed you as well. I went through your social media and did a little bit of stalking, if you might say that way, right? So your posts on social media are very powerful towards the copy and the messaging, right? How do you decide what is the best way to send these messages?
I think the process of deciding how to create an impactful post actually changes over time. And for me, it's more of really thinking about, how would who would actually resonate, or who would be going through the same sort of life challenges that I am going through or had to go through. And because I've always been a writer, so it's for me it's about trying to position a posting and the message that I the captioning, and for me it's about how do I grab people's attention within 1 or 2 seconds. And it's a process. It's a process of hoping that it's like a trial and error as well, hoping that it would touch the person who would resonate with the message. Yeah. So that's how I based it on.
Yeah, those are very even the choice of words, they're very powerful, if you might say it that way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're most welcome. We also know that you create content for clients, right? What do you think can't be replicated about being a freelance content creator?
The appetite for risks.
Can you give some clarity on that?
I mean, like, the thing is, people, they look at freelancers and they go, oh, you guys are freelancers, like, and some of those business owners, they kind of take advantage of that, I feel. but they don't realize that every freelancer after the journey evolves, they become a business owner. Okay, to become a business owner or an entrepreneur, it's not the easiest journey. You need to be able to take the risk,
right,
and to withstand times where you might not even have a client. That's what actually puts us, differentiates us from the 9 to 5, right? Like,
right.
And that's something that I feel like really good freelance people. We want the flexibility. We want, the freedom to do what we want. And so that appetite, and also in that, it's like a risk. It's being a risk taker. I think that's always gonna set us apart from someone who's working 9 to 5 for sure. Okay. That's my opinion. Because I'm really, really a believer of that. Yeah.
To avoid wasting time or money, right? What is the critical to get right in the content creation department?
Okay, so my take in it is, I think content creation process is something that, it's almost like a trial and error, and then over time it evolves, like I said in the beginning. So, to avoid time, in my experience, is that obviously you need to know what your offering is and what you actually want to give value, and what your ultimate objective is. And so, which means planning and having like a content structure is always going to help you save time. But because there's 2 different aspects of content creation. Like, you could be just a content creator, but what about that's a content creator, which means somebody who wants to create content for a living, and then there's somebody else who is a business owner who wants to create content, and you can say that they are content creators too. Right. But so if you're talking about, let's just say, aiming from the perspective of just a content creator, this is going to take time. I'm presuming if this is going out there to people who wants to create content for a living, what would I say to them? I would say, look, it might take some time to create, to find your angle, to find your message, and to see what you're offering, how you can actually create value with what you already know.
Right.
How do you save time? I think saving time would be also knowing yourself and what you really want to give, and what do you really want to achieve at the end of the day. I think it's a process of like Gary Vee always say, self-awareness, but it's really understanding yourself, and knowing and adapting with the changes that will come along the way, the ability to adapt. But if you're a business owner, content creator, then that's a different thing, because then you need to know what your ultimate product is, so it's 2 different angles, I think, for that.
Okay. Yeah. I noticed you mentioned Gary Vee earlier, right? Do you consume a lot of his content as well?
Absolutely. In the beginning, I think he propelled me in my journey.
Yep, I think that happens a lot to a lot of people out there, actually.
Absolutely.
Me, myself, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of Gary Vee until a friend of mine started sharing it to me, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
This guy is real, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the other person that I would encourage people to look at is Grant Cardone as well. And quite a number. Yeah, both of them would be really good kickstarters to the hustler process.
Hey, yeah. There we go, the hustler process. So, in your opinion, being a content creator yourself, what is the key ingredient towards a successful content? This is more of from your perspective.
Key ingredient to a successful content. What would I find, and how would I define a successful content? It actually would, like I said, go back to whether it touches the reader, it's because I'm a writer. So my aim when I create a writing piece of content, it has to be something that just smacks someone with it, whoa, I need to do something now, because I read so much, and I am impacted by the books that I read, and that's how I actually, because I was impacted that way, and I want to impact somebody else that way. So it has to be grab attention, attention, I suppose is the word. You're able to grab people's attention, and they finish that content, and then maybe they give a nice comment or something.
Yep.
that's for me. Okay, I've done something with it. Like people actually go like, "Got this wow effect." That would be a successful content.
You did mention that you read a lot of books. If you were to recommend to our listeners right now, what is that one book that has really changed your way of viewing life in general? What would it be?
Oh, okay, it's a lot of books. Okay, it's a lot of books. I mean, if I have to, okay, so we're talking about from a business and an entrepreneurial sense, right?
Yeah, let's start with the business side first, and then we'll get into the
Be Obsessed by Grant Cardone. I think something a Be Obsessed, something then Be Average or something like that. I can't remember. Obsessed. Anyway, you can find it. Be Obsessed, and then find Grant Cardone. I think that book has given me the permission to really own who the fuck I am, you know,
right.
and to really understand that, you know, just because we have a few, you know, like obsessions over certain things in life, but if we use that correctly, and if we
channel it correctly,
own that part of us, you know, I think that's just gonna freaking, you know, propel people to success if they allow themselves to say, yeah, you know, I might have like an addiction or obsession trait, but if I could use that and channel that, like you say,
right?
Yeah, that definitely has really just made me feel better about myself, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about coming from a perspective of life, if you might say that way, right? I actually read this book called. This one really changed my life in a lot of ways, actually. It's called The Game by Neil Strauss. Have you heard of it?
I heard of Neil Strauss.
Well, basically, to put it in context, that book actually taught a lot of men about dating, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's about dating mainly, but as you go deeper inside the book, and then you just found out that it's not about dating in general. It's about claiming that confidence back in yourself, right? That's at least how I perceive it, right? But it also depends on who the readers are as well, because that's what I gain from it. So I just want to know, what is it for you that was, you're a cancer survivor yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I do believe that there was a phase in time where you really felt really pressured in your life, right? So what was that? Maybe there's a book or anyone that you listen to that really helped you to keep you going in that part.
It's a combination of books, but like what really actually I feel helped me in my survival was the book called The Power of Subconscious Mind
By
oh my god, Joseph Murphy.
Okay.
So there was a secret, right? The law of attraction, the secret, and then after that, I met this guy who said, hey, you know, actually it came from this one, and there's a lot of like similarities in it, but it's really because of that book that made me realize the power of what I have and the ability to get over my challenges. And it's a combination of other like Neil Donald Walsh, right, all very spiritual authors, but it's just their perspective of life actually made me feel like, you know what, I can do this, you know, and I deserve to have a perfect health despite having leukemia, and I'm going to be fine. And I think I managed to achieve that. Yeah. It's been 5 years, so.
Right, so now that we've moved on from the topic of business, if you might say that way, I just want to talk a little bit more on the personal side of your life, right? So as we know, you survived the cancer. Not many people have the chance to have a second chance, right? And knowing that you did, and you actually survive and prevail, it's just very motivating in a way, right? To see that you're very healthy right in front of us, very healthy, very jovial looking, right? So also throughout in life, right? I've met some people throughout my life that always talks about there's always something wrong in their life, right? They are always not satisfied. They're not content with their life, you might say that way. So from your point of view, knowing that you actually were given another chance, right? What are your thoughts on people who are not content with their life currently, that everything is just not right for them?
Okay, so let's just talk about myself for a very quick one.
Yep.
Because even
Go
as
ahead.
a cancer survivor, someone who has gone through acute leukemia and almost died, even I go through the motions of finding my life pretty shit. You know, I had to what I call become human again, where I was like flying high and I survived cancer. And then the next thing I know, I have to be worrying about my freaking bills. You know, after I went through some spiritual awakening and some awareness, and I still have to go through life. So what I will say about those people is, you know, if they don't actually, if they can't really see, you know, if they don't have another perspective, how can we blame them? Because they don't see. They don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Even as somebody who knows. And if, you know, if I were to say to someone, yeah, look, I understand death and I have almost been through that. And then after that, I have to live, you know. You know what I mean? And to me, actually, the most difficult part of life is living it. So if someone who's been through so much and still go through that process, I wouldn't blame them. I would just say, look, you know, you've got it pretty good. You just gotta go through the motions, and hopefully one day you would sort of realize that, hey, you know, it's actually not as bad as you think it is, and that's why we have motivational speakers all around. That's why we have books, and that's why
religion.
And that's why you have like suppose that's why I talk about what I talk about. You know, I guess like perspective. You know, it's like a different perspective that you have, and you can't blame someone who might not necessarily have that experience and that perspective, the experience, the perspective that the experience will give them, right? So like, yeah, we could go, oh, you know, you're just being freaking stupid, but like, you know, perspective, like that's why you have people like me talking about.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
you know?
that really hits me hard as well, because I was just talking to Adam here earlier. We were stuck in a jam, and there was this guy who was trying to cut us in, right? And I was like, oh man. You know what? I don't get people who would complain about the fact that they're someone who's trying to cut their lane and so on. And I was getting upset over that fact, right? And then right after you said that, you actually have a very solid point, is that there are certain things in life that you can't control, right? That you can't expect people to behave in a manner where you're behaving, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gee, I of all people have this insane, like, you know, like when the temper comes, it's just like, you know, you mother.
Yeah. I get what you mean.
I have it.
Yeah, you get intense out of nowhere. Yeah.
And then it's just like, hey man, chill, man. Like, yo, just like, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, no, you know, I think that it's okay. But it's like, at some point you gotta. It's like, you know, what is important and what really matters to you. You know, does it really matter that somebody cut your line? I mean, it does matter at that point, but I don't know, if you have a bigger vision to work towards and you have a deeper meaning in life, is when things actually begin to change.
Yeah, I think that's also, it goes back to, I think I've heard this from a guy called Jordan Peterson before. He was talking about Buddhism, right? Buddhists actually live their life thinking that life is actually a suffering on itself, right? So whatever happens during that time, it shouldn't be dragging them down, because it's only for that moment, right? You have bigger goals. Like you said, you have bigger goals to work on. So why would you let this other external stuff matters to you? Why would you invite problems when there's already a problem? You get what I mean?
Yeah, totally. But the thing is, you know, sometimes when it happens, we, like you said, we
react.
Yeah, we don't have control over it. It's just like recognizing that we're just gonna be freaking pissed and just, okay, get over it.
Yeah. Sometimes it might take 10 minutes to really cool down and all that.
Takes me an hour.
Oh wow, an hour to
yeah, I mean, look, you know, I get pissed over something. You know, someone might just be an asshole, and I'll be thinking for like the next 15 and half an hour, it's like, you know, do you have to behave that way? Like, really, dude? And I'm the kind of person who goes, hey, you know, I don't think that was cool, but it just happens, you know. I think
so.
It's just.
I do have a question here. So when that happened, right? When that happens, when you're in the peak of your temper, if you
Yeah.
might say that way, how do you actually take a step back, or you just let it pass through? Like, okay, all right, whatever. Or is there any steps that goes like, all right, calm the fuck down?
Yeah. I think there have been moments of my life where, because maybe I'm harnessing a more aggressive energy, then it just gets worse. It does. But then it's like a series of steps that I have in place where, okay, Jess, okay, you need to like become more centered, which means I have like a routine where I just, all right,
Take a deep
stop.
breath.
Yeah, like just stop for a bit. Because the ego doesn't. It's really just the ego being fucking pissed off, right? But when you take a step back and you just go, okay, you just don't need to add in that extra word and make things worse. I think it's the same for it. Like if you have a partner and the person just decided that they want to have a bad day, like it's just that one word, just like hold your tongue, just for that 10 seconds, and I think the thing will just pass by. Yeah, and that's a learning process that I've learned since like 5 years ago.
Just about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you want to share a little bit on that, or are you?
Okay, so I was in a relationship 5 years ago, and that's like a 5-year long relationship. And what I've really learned about that is hold your tongue, woman. Just hold your tongue. Like, and I think Grant Cardone's wife, also learned that. It's like with women, you need to know the things that should be said and when you should just fucking shut up. I'm not saying that in disrespect for women out there, but
understood.
It's the same thing for men and women, and like because it's just the ego, isn't it? Like it's more like self-awareness at the end of the day, And I learned that you're pissed, but if the relationship or that connection matters to you, then your anger is not that important, is it?
Right.
And once we learn how to become more aware of ourselves, and I practice a lot of
mindfulness.
Yeah, presence practice, I call it, where I'm more like, okay, like my attention is more inside my body. And I had to learn that because I needed to survive, right? So rather than being in my head, I'm just more like, grounded inside my body. And as it made me learn how to hold my tongue. And the book that really also changed my life, is, to answer the other question, was by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Oh, Eckhart Tolle,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but I think that would help peace, because you begin to be more aware, like when you want to smack someone, like believe me, I want to smack someone when I'm in the traffic,
right,
someone
right,
just,
right.
how dare you? Yeah,
right.
But it's just
Yeah, this is the thing. Just to go back a little bit on the mindfulness you were talking about, right? I think that thing is pretty underrated, especially now that everyone is constantly thinking, constantly moving, right? We rarely have the time to actually we do. It can be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But people just don't prioritize that much. And I personally feel like it's very underrated. Like I myself, sometimes when I get a panic attack or anxiety attack, right?
Yeah.
That really helps in certain ways, right? Where you just lay down and really take a deep breath and just be aware of whatever's going on in your body. Right?
So there's this misconception that, mindfulness practice needs to take like 15 minutes or half an hour. And that's why with the work that I do now, I realize that no, it's not about that. This is the modern time and space. Actually even the more wise healers out there, even my own healer, like he said, 5 minutes of breathing practice and mindfulness practice is actually enough. And the longer, when you do that on a consistent basis, who cannot afford 5 minutes? And it's not like 15 minutes. It's not like asking you to go to the cave and meditate. No, it's just like really, but because that's...
Right.
Yeah, that's
the misconception.
Yeah, I there are different ways to practice mindfulness. And in the modern world where, this very short attention span, we can really actually incorporate that, like say, even like before this recording, it's like 2 minutes, just, okay, I'm like, maybe I'm a bit nervous, or maybe I'm being very annoyed or whatever. It's just taking that 30 seconds, and you can increase that. And when we are having like panic attacks or when we're nervous, it's just about realizing that, I am feeling that way, and let's just count out to 7 breaths, like deep breath, that in itself actually is actually really, really helpful, if we apply it.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving on from that,
Yeah.
right? When you first found out that you had cancer, how did that change your life and your daily routine?
Well, 360 degrees, right? Like, because I had a high-flying job and was doing so well. And then I was diagnosed with leukemia. And then I never went back to work ever again. On the same day I went for the checkup, to test my, to get my blood tested, I never went back. So from somebody who had everything, like long hair and like pretty,
Right.
and like was that a good performance, like a good paying career, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, bam, just
gone.
Yeah, it's just gone overnight. Then I realized that no matter how much money I had in my bank, then I cannot use it. I can only use it in my hospital bills.
Right.
So like it's changed 100. I cannot go back to work. Of course I can't. I had to go to chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And life just never actually been the same ever again. And no matter how I want to slice it, it's that I know that I cannot really be normal in that sense anymore. That was the realization. And it didn't really hit me until 5 years later, though. When I came out and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like 25, 26, and like everybody's like kind of ahead, and
You got to start all over.
Kind of, yeah, but at least I get to do it differently, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did that change your daily routine in some sort of way?
Completely. I mean, I had no hair, and I was like weak, and I had no physical strength because of the chemotherapy, and it's like tubes inside here, and tubes like sticking out my heart, and then it's not, for like at least 6 months. So yeah, and then the tubes are in here, right? So I mean, I don't take pictures of that because I didn't ever want to remember that, But then after that, I went on Ayurvedic treatment, and for the next 1.5 years, then it's housebound. So daily routine change, it's like, oh my God. Oh, yeah. Complete change.
Before and after you were diagnosed, right? I do believe it's, like you mentioned, it is a complete way of living life, right? I do want to know, before you were diagnosed, what did you tell yourself every morning throughout your whole entire life until that happened? And then what did you tell yourself every morning after you were diagnosed?
Oh my God.
I do believe there's a huge transition.
Before I was diagnosed, I was just worried about shit every day. What am I going to eat tomorrow? Oh my God, I can't do this. I'm putting on weight. Oh my God, my hair is so long, I need to have it. I need to cut my hair.
Right.
Shit, my boyfriend is being a fucking asshole. Fucking up. Yeah, what was my mother going to say? What's my uncle going to say? I hated this job. Why am I still doing it? What? And after I was diagnosed, it's like, Jesus, hell, Jess, you got it good, huh? What the fuck are you complaining about?
Right.
Like, why you can't even eat shit now, like after I was diagnosed, like I can't.
That must have been hard.
It's like, it was like a slap in my face, like it's kind of like, oh wow, I got it good, I had the money in my bank. Yes, I wasn't starving, I wasn't earning that much. I could have earned a lot more, but it's more like, oh wow, I took it for granted. And the question was like, what went through my head before, right? So it was all of that. It was all of that. Like in the morning, like feeling like I wasn't happy in my relationship. Sorry, James.
You don't have to be sorry about that.
I wasn't. I really wasn't. There are many. Yeah, it's just. But he's a great guy. Just in case you listen. No. After I was diagnosed, it was there was no leeway. For me, you either fucking make it or die, Joyce. What do you choose? Choose which one, which path do you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I had to choose the positive route, which means I either train my mind, because the power of subconscious mind, right? That book. Why it's so powerful is because it's telling you that, you know, your habits, and actually now it's like our actions are actually governed by our what, no, how do I call that? So, okay, the subconscious, their subconscious patterns and the behaviors that we do, they're actually driven by very, you know, like subconscious belief systems and our thoughts and beliefs. That's what actually drive our main actions. So it was through that I realized that if I could convince my mind, as in my subconscious mind, that hey, Jess, you know, you have a chance to get through this. So that's only through repetitive thinking. That's only through programming the neural pathways of the brain, so that you start to like create new channels inside the brain. You know, it's a lot of that work that I needed to do. So I knew that if I were to go down that route about, you know, worrying and just like going through all the negative thoughts, I'm really gonna die.
Right.
So I had to really just go, okay, this is what I'm gonna think, you know, the affirmations that I'm gonna do, really looking for success stories, really focusing on, okay, this person has survived cancer, you know, I'm definitely gonna find a solution, even though there was none. So with leukemia is that, you know, there are many alternative treatments out there. For example, Gerson therapy that could treat liver cancer or breast cancer or even brain tumors, but it doesn't treat leukemia. So even the most, like, apparently one of the more powerful therapies out there that could treat many other incurable or severe cancers, it doesn't work for mine. So despite that, however, like, my daily routine is to making sure that I just believe in what I want to make happen. So it has to be, man, like full on, like marathon positive thinking, but it's not always positive. I'll tell you that.
Right.
So
yeah, I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, 10 to 20. Well, that's my job then, you know. Like, I know that there's going to be ups and downs, but there's a tipping point. So you don't have to go on 100% of positive thinking that can actually change your life. You need to tip that point. You know, I think like 65 to 70% could actually make it work. So as long as like the majority is against the negative side, you're good.
Right.
So I feel like managed to go out to like 10% of negative thoughts and negative feelings. Yeah, and you know, just pop on freaking Tiesto. What's that? Red lights. Anything to program and to uplift your mood. You know, you don't necessarily need to meditate. I mean, that's what I do anyway.
Right.
And it worked.
Wow.
It worked.
Yeah, I do believe like it's also important to be okay with the downs that you're gonna have along the way, right? Because a lot of people set this sort of expectation, like everything is gonna be perfectly fine, and then when shit hits the fan, and they hit the fan too.
And then
and then they'll be spiraling around, right? But anyways, throughout your journey up until today, who were the important people that sticks by your side?
I would say the person who's been around has always been my ex-boyfriend. I mean, he's more of like my family member now. I mean, obviously my family is going to be around, but really I think it's just me. Right. I mean, I have friends, don't get me wrong, they're cool, but you know, look, you know, your journey is your own, man. You propel yourself up or down, you know, it's your call. And it's me and me, I think.
Wow. Man, I really need to take that in because, you know, sometimes when my panic attack comes in, I would always like rely on my friends like, guys, help me out. But
I think it's good to have friends too.
Yeah, it's important to have support system, definitely. But also at the end of the day, you just got to acknowledge the fact that, like you said, it's going to be me, right?
Yeah, you take responsibility, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so from your experience, what makes a person break through their limitations when they are going through what you had to go through as a survivor?
A vision. You need to have a vision of your success, of what is possible. Because if you don't see it, you need to become a visionary. Like, I 100% believe in that. You don't have the fucking vision, you ain't gonna make it, man. You know, like, you need to be able to know, okay, this is what I want, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get there.
Okay.
And that is going to be the defining factor. And then along the way, work on yourself so that you know that you get there.
Right.
I think some people are blessed with the ability to have that vision, and some people are blessed to have different abilities. But I think a more an appropriate answer for those people out there would be more like find your strengths and focus on it, rather than finding and pushing at what you're not good at.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just gonna feel shit about yourself. Yeah, and that's going to be your defining factor. It's not just what Jassica sees, but it's going to be whoever who, like, okay, maybe I'm good at, I don't know, something that this girl is not good at. You know what I'm saying? So it's finding about what you're good at and focusing
Triple
on that.
down on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-awareness.
Yep. Gary V. I wish he's listening to this podcast right now. Shout out Gary V. Anyways, right before we end this podcast, surprisingly, it has been 40 minutes? Yeah, 40 minutes or so. Is there any words of wisdom to other young adult cancer survivors out there from you?
Live it. Kick some asses. You didn't survive for no reason. I really, really believe that if you have survived a condition, actually not just cancer, but let's just say cancer or any other
sickness,
life challenge, sickness or life challenges,
right.
You didn't go through that without a reason. And this is going out to anybody who is listening in, whatever challenges, you didn't go through that without a reason. And the fact that you went through it is because you have the resources to go through it, whether it's inside of you or whatever, that you have the capabilities to go through it, and just live it and find a way to give back, I suppose. Yeah, right. When you got through it.
So last question for today, it will be where can people find out more about you, your work, and maybe your story as well?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Jassica Nia, and I recently opened up another Instagram account called Once We Lived. And I'm building on that, so they could find me there.
Once We Live.
Yeah, Once We Lived.
So that is supposed to be like a community or
yeah, that's more for, it's a little bit more spiritual, but it's, I'm developing my content on there and angling, making it right. And it's I just recently started that.
Excuse me. Yeah, I saw the logo. You did that logo too?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's very simple, and the logo itself, it speaks for the brand itself. Once We Live. Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah.
Oh.
So, okay, everyone, that's our episode with Jassica Nia today. I just want to give a big thank you to Jassica for coming over and share her story with us about her cancer surviving journey, and basically how she create content for her clients and all of that, and how she actually go through life and all. So thank you so much, Jassica, for your time. I really appreciate you coming over and share with us your story. Just before we end it, do you have anything to say? One last one.
Live your life, guys.
There
live it up.
go.
Live it up.
All right. It's not every day we get to hear it from the perspective of a cancer survivor. Do we have to wait for a second chance until we realize we should live life to the fullest? A big thank you to Jassica Nia for joining us on the podcast today. I hope you gain tons of value from this podcast, and if you like this show, don't forget to share it with your friends and family. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. This podcast is a collaboration between Culture Talent and Renegade Radio. This is your host signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.